Welcome to the deep dive. So, let's talk about something I think a lot of you might relate to. You understand English, right? You follow shows, you can read articles, no problem.
Uh-huh.
But then when it's your turn to speak, it feels like something jams up, like the words won't come out right.
Yeah, that gap between understanding and speaking it's a really common experience.
Yeah.
Very common.
Exactly. So today, we're going to dive into why that happens. And more importantly, we're pulling out some really practical strategies from understanding English, speaking confidently, tips and strategies, things you can actually do to start speaking more fluently and, feel better about it.
It is fascinating, isn't it, how knowing a language passively,
Mm.
like listening or reading, doesn't just automatically switch on the speaking part.
Right.
The source uses a great analogy. It's like you might love listening to piano music. You might even understand the theory.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean you can sit down and play a Chopin piece. Speaking is an active skill. It needs its own kind of training.
Okay, so it's not just about having the words stored somewhere in your head. It's an active process.
Totally.
The material really stresses that. Your brain has to, grab the thought, build a sentence around it, manage the pronunciation, the rhythm, all while trying to keep up with the conversation. It's demanding.
It absolutely is.
Right.
And if you look at the brain science behind it, which the source touches on, understanding engages certain areas, receptive ones, but speaking,
Yeah.
that heavily relies on productive areas, like Broca's area. That's the bit really involved in forming words and structuring sentences.
Ah, okay.
So just listening or reading doesn't automatically give Broca's area the workout it needs to get good at speaking. It's like having, flour, sugar, eggs.
The ingredients.
Yeah, the ingredients. But you still need the recipe and, crucially, the practice of actually mixing and baking to get a cake. You have to practice the making part.
Right, you can't just absorb fluency through your skin. And one of the biggest roadblocks, I think, is that whole translation thing we do in our head.
Oh, absolutely. The translation trap.
Yeah. You hear something in English, translate it to your native language, think of a reply, translate that back into English. It's exhausting. And it often sounds a bit clunky.
It does. And it keeps you one step removed from the actual conversation.
Yeah.
The source really pushes this idea of shifting towards thinking in English.
Okay, but how? That sounds hard.
It is a shift, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not about finding perfect one-to-one word translations. It's more about training your brain to actually formulate the thought using English structures and vocabulary right from the start.
Like changing mental gears.
Exactly, like changing gears. It feels weird at first, maybe even slower initially, but it's the path to more natural, spontaneous speech.
So how do we start making that switch? The source mentions creating an immersive environment. Is that just like having the TV on in the background?
Well, that can be part of it, but it's more intentional than that. Think of it as constantly feeding your brain the patterns of English. Music, podcasts, movies, sure, but also things like changing your phone language, reading websites in English.
Okay.
You're surrounding yourself with the sounds, the rhythms, the common phrases. Over time, your brain starts to sort of internalize these patterns.
Yeah.
It reduces the need to translate because English starts to feel more like the default setting for certain contexts.
So the more you soak in it, the more your brain just kind of picks it up, makes it easier to think and speak directly in English.
Precisely. It builds that sort of mental library of English phrases and structures you can draw on. And consistency is really key here. Little bits, often.
Got it. Okay, so immersion helps bypass the translation trap. But then there's the other big monster, the fear. The fear of making mistakes.
Yes. The fear factor. It's huge.
You worry about grammar, pronunciation, just sounding silly. It can totally freeze you up.
It really can. And
Okay.
a big part of tackling this, according to the source, is changing how you see those mistakes.
Oh, so.
Instead of seeing them as failures, try to reframe them as, like, data points, learning opportunities. Each mistake you make, a pronunciation slip, a grammatical error, it actually highlights something specific you can work on. It's valuable feedback, not something to be ashamed of.
So less cringing, more analyzing. Like, okay, you need to work on the sound, or, right, I forgot the past tense there.
Exactly. And be kinder to yourself. The source makes a great point. Think about a toddler learning to walk. They fall down constantly.
Yeah, you don't yell at them for it.
Right. You encourage them. We need that same attitude with language learning. Give yourself permission to stumble, to be imperfect. Focus on just communicating, on getting your message across, not on delivering a flawless performance every time.
Embrace the imperfection. I like that. Focus on progress, not perfection. Okay, that helps with the mindset.
Mhm.
What about actual practical speaking techniques? The source mentions shadowing, calls it a secret weapon.
Shadowing. Yes,
Hmm.
it's really effective for working directly on your pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation, the music of the language.
How does it work?
You basically listen to a native speaker, could be from an audiobook, a podcast, a video clip,
Okay.
and you try to speak along with them. At the same time, you're literally trying to mirror their sounds, where they put the stress, how their voice goes up and down.
So you're not just repeating after them, you're talking with them.
Exactly. It's like a vocal workout, training your mouth and your ear simultaneously.
Interesting. Any tips for doing it effectively?
Yeah, the source suggests starting small, maybe with just short sentences or phrases so it's not overwhelming. Really listen hard to the intonation and stress patterns. And a big one, record yourself doing it.
Oh, brave.
It can feel weird, yeah. But listening back and comparing yourself to the original speaker is incredibly helpful. You'll spot differences you wouldn't otherwise notice. It's like having your own little language coach.
Okay, I can see the value in that, even if it's slightly terrifying. What about chunking? That sounds less intimidating.
Chunking is great for reducing that feeling of being overwhelmed when you try to speak.
How does it help?
Instead of trying to construct and deliver a long, complex sentence all in one go,
Uh-huh.
you break it down into smaller, manageable pieces or chunks, like building blocks.
So, like, instead of, I was wondering if you could possibly tell me the way to the station,
Yeah.
you might think, excuse me, then could you tell me then the way to the station?
Precisely. You practice saying those smaller chunks smoothly. It lowers the cognitive load, makes it feel less daunting. And as you get comfortable with the chunks, stringing them together becomes much more natural and fluent.
Like Lego bricks for sentences.
Kinda, yeah. And related to that is mastering those really common everyday phrases.
Like, hello, how are you? Thank you, excuse me.
Exactly. The source emphasizes getting these down until they are completely automatic, effortless,
Why is that so important? They seem so basic.
because they form the bedrock of conversation. When those basic phrases are automatic, you don't spend any mental energy on them. That frees up your brain power to handle the more complex parts of the exchange. They become part of your active, ready-to-use vocabulary.
Okay, so nail the basics to free up resources for the harder stuff. Makes sense. Now, how do we actually, use all this in real life? Bridging that gap from practice to actual conversations.
That's the key step, isn't it? Moving into real interaction. The source strongly suggests finding opportunities tied to your interests.
Like,
Like, if you love cooking, maybe find an English language cooking blog and comment, or join an online discussion group about it. If you're into movies, find forums or groups where people discuss films in English.
so you connect language practice with something you actually enjoy doing anyway.
Exactly. It makes it more meaningful, more motivating, and less like a chore. Plus, you'll learn vocabulary relevant to your interests.
That's smart. What about finding people to talk to?
Loads of options there, especially online now. Language exchange apps and websites are fantastic. You find a native English speaker learning your language, and you help each other.
A tandem partnership.
Yeah. Or online conversation clubs, virtual language cafes, even online tutors for more structured practice and feedback. There are many ways to connect.
So resources are definitely out there.
They really are. But the absolute core message from the source is, start speaking now. Don't wait until you feel fluent enough, because that day might never feel like it arrives if you don't practice.
Just jump in.
Jump in. Even with simple phrases, simple conversations, every interaction builds confidence and skill. Take small steps consistently.
Start before you feel ready. Okay. That leads us nicely into the whole mindset aspect, which the source really highlights as being critical.
Hugely important. Your attitude, your beliefs about learning, they have a massive impact. Cultivating that belief in yourself that you can learn to speak English well is fundamental.
And being realistic.
Yes, definitely. Setting realistic expectations. Learning a language takes time and effort. It's not linear. There will be ups and downs. Avoid those crazy deadlines that just set you up for disappointment. Balance ambition with patience.
And fluency itself. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
one size fits all, right?
Right. Not at all. The source encourages you to define what fluency means for you. Is it ordering coffee comfortably? Participating in work meetings? Having deep philosophical debates?
Right. Your goals determine your target.
Exactly. Aim for effective communication in your context, not some mythical perfect English. And crucially, celebrate your wins,
The small stuff.
especially the small stuff. Acknowledging every little bit of progress, understanding a joke, using a new word correctly, getting through a short phone call. That's what fuels your motivation.
It's easy to forget how far you've come when you're focused on the destination.
So true. And expect tough times.
Mm.
Build resilience. You will have days where you feel frustrated, where you feel like you're going backwards.
Normal.
Completely normal. Don't let those days define you. Recognize them, maybe take a short break if needed, but then get back to it. Learn from it.
And maybe find some buddies.
Yes. A supportive community, language partners, online groups makes a huge difference. Knowing you're not alone in the struggle is really encouraging. And finally, the source mentions gratitude.
Gratitude. How does that fit in?
Just appreciating the opportunity to learn, the resources available, the chance to connect with new cultures and people through language. Focusing on the positive can really help you enjoy the process more.
Right, focusing on the journey itself.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the key takeaways. Understanding is great, it's the foundation, but speaking is an active skill that needs dedicated practice. That means things like training yourself to think in English,
Using techniques like shadowing for pronunciation and rhythm, chunking to make sentences manageable.
mastering those everyday phrases so they're automatic, maybe even recording yourself, and crucially, tackling the fear, reframe mistakes as learning chances. Be kind to yourself, focus on progress.
And cultivate that positive, patient mindset. Set realistic goals based on what you need, celebrate your wins, build resilience for the tough patches, and connect with others.
And the biggest thing, find ways to practice in real situations, connect it to your interests, and just start speaking. Now, don't wait. Be patient, be consistent, and try to enjoy it.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. What's one small thing, just one concrete step you could commit to doing today or this week to actively practice speaking English? Forget just listening or reading for a moment. What's one technique, like shadowing a short clip, or one resource, maybe looking up a language exchange partner, that you'll actually try? How might taking that single active step start to shift your whole learning experience?